Hi everyone, Fritz here. Do you have a manual transmission that feels very soft and sloppy every time you're going in and out of the gears and you're wondering what could it be? Well, I'm here to tell you that it's probably the transmission mount. And in today's video, we're gonna switch out the transmission mounts and see if there's a huge difference between this and the stock transmission mounts. Now you might be saying to yourself, why do the transmission mounts matter so much while I'm shifting? Isn't it actually the shifter? However, the transmission mounts are what give you the stable ground in order to have leverage when you're going in and out of the gears. Think about it as if you were moving a couch. Your upper body, your arms, probably doing a lot of the work, but it's actually your feet that are giving you the stable ground in order to push off of, and then you're able to push that couch a great distance. It's the same concept when we're talking about the transmission mounts and the shifter. If you have a soft and spongy transmission mount like the ones that BMW put in and compare it to the ones from Rogue Engineering, you can already see that its thinner diameter allow it to have that soft sponginess. And as you can see behind me, we already have the car jacked up. And if you need to locate the jacking points in the car, I'm gonna leave a video up here for you. But let's get started and get underneath the car. And once we're underneath the car, we can identify the transmission brace, which is this metal piece right here. And it will be held in by 4 13mm bolts, 2 on one side and then 2 on another side. But in order to remove these 2 bolts, you have to use an 8mm socket in order to remove those 2 bolts that hold in the exhaust flange. However, before you remove those bolts, put in a jack just to hold the transmission in place. That way it doesn't put too much strain on the other bolts that hold it into place. When you're securing it with, say, like a scissor jack and some hockey pucks, you do not want to put it onto this circle portion of the transmission right here, because that is not the strongest point, and if that breaks, there goes your transmission. Try to put it on the flatter portion of the transmission, as you see right here. And now, with the transmission securely in place, we can start removing some of these bolts. Now the bolts that hold in the transmission mount are also 13mm. Now with all those bolts removed, you should have enough leverage here to just simply slide the brace on out. And now we can take off the bolts that hold in the top of the transmission mount. Now these bolts are also secured by a 13mm nut, and it's much easier just to use a wrench to get these off. And you don't need them completely off as we took the other ones out. We just need to loosen it up because they glide out. Now it is pretty tight in there, so as soon as you loosen up the bolt, go ahead and just loosen the rest with your hand and they slide right on out. So when we're looking at the 2 mounts side by side, we can see that the Rogue Engineering one is a very symmetrical and cylindrical shape. Now we can even see that the Rogue Engineering one has a cutout in order to fit the BMW transmission brace, just like the stock ones have right here. Now BMW intentionally designed this transmission mount with the offset and the reduced diameter all the way around in order to reduce the friction, vibration, and noise coming through the cabin. This is also what causes that soft and sloppy shifting. However, the Rogue Engineering one, it's symmetrical all the way around. It has a little bit of a thicker material. It has some give to it when you press it, but you can tell that the BMW one has a little bit more give. And I do recommend that you put the mounts on the brace first, because you want to be able to line up those notches. But you don't want to go super tight here. You're only going to go to about 21 Newton meters or 15 foot-pounds. Just make sure it's snug enough that it doesn't come out of the groove, and then we can start lining this up when we get back underneath the car. Now let's slide back in the brace. Now we have to put back in the bolts that hold the brace in place, and we're just gonna do this finger tight. That way we can remove the jack, let the transmission rest on the brace as well as the mounts, because it's slightly lifted at this point, before tightening everything down. Now we can remove our jack. When we're at this point, you want to make sure that the transmission mounts are sitting flush with the transmission at their proper points, and that everything is hand tightened down and fits okay. Just remember that the top of the transmission mounts tighten is that way. So you guys are looking at it from the rear of the car. So to tighten is towards the left, and then to loosen is towards the right. Because of the orientation of the screw, it can be a little confusing. So just remember that the top threads on the transmission mounts are reversed from when you're working at this position. And when you're tightening this brace, treat it like you would a tire, where we're gonna start at one corner, go diagonally across, come up from that corner, and then go diagonally across. That way the brace sits in very evenly. Let's tighten down the bolts on the top. Now, if you need the links to the transmission mounts, as well as the tools that I used in this video, I'm gonna leave the links for everything in the description below. And then lastly, the bottom bolts of the transmission mount. Do these just hand tight. And remember, torque spec is only about 20 Newton meters or 15 foot-pounds. So initial thoughts on the Rogue Engineering transmission mounts is that they are very stiff and give you a lot of feedback when you're going in and out of the gears. In my personal opinion, it's way better than stock. Going in and out of the gears feel very solid. It's not so much wobble when you're in between gears in that transition phase. And then when you actually put it into gear and expecting that feedback, you get it, but there's not a lot of recoil when you do get it. I've tried another brand called ECS, and that one, it's just as stiff when you're going in and out of the gears. And when you put it into the gear, when you finally lock it in, you actually get that slam. Imagine like slapping your hand against a wall, and you feel that impact on your hand. Here, you get that same impact, but there's not that recoil. Imagine like there's like a pillow or something, and maybe that has to do with the material with ECS versus Rogue Engineering. When you compare it to stock, there's no comparison. The Rogue Engineering mount actually reduced a lot of the vibration that I originally had in the shifter when I installed the short shifter kit when you're in neutral. So both are better than stock, but the reason why I chose Rogue versus ECS is because the Rogue Engineering, it does not transmit as much noise and vibration through the cabin, but ECS definitely does. For me, Rogue Engineering is perfect for the daily driver. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. If you have any questions, leave it for me in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next video.